then. Okay. Morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar with Annika Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley, and I've got Jordan Munton here today. Hello, Jordan.
Hello, everyone.
And now Jordan's going to be talking about Performance Max, which is a smart AI-driven shopping campaign from Google. So if you can get your slides up, Jordan, that would be amazing. And then while we're waiting for a few more people to join us, what we'll do is we'll do the poll. You can also go and grab the handouts from the top right where the handout button's there. And we can we'll be circulating the video in a couple of hours. So let's do the poll first of all. You can see people arriving all the time. And do I need to reshare it? I think I might have to go in. Is it letting me share it? Can you see it?
I can't see it now.
Okay,
because I've got my screen being shared.
Okay, let me just go and see if I may have messed it up and accidentally shared it already. So okay, so what we might need to do is get you to answer this in the chat because it looks like
I'll kick myself out 1 second. Let me
I seem to have I don't seem to have the ability to.
Do you want me to click it? I can start the poll.
Oh, can you? Okay, yeah, I don't think I've got the right admin. I don't think I've been given the right admin lessons this week. Well done,
Okay,
Jordan.
So I've started the first poll. Can you see that, Anne, your side?
I can. Do you want me to read it out for you?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Do you have an e-commerce website and are you using Google Ads and or shopping ads? And we talk about standard shopping and Performance Max campaign. So the first answer is no, I'm not working for a business at the moment, or our business does not have e-commerce. Yes, our business is an e-commerce business who's already planning to create an e-commerce website. So these are for the people that are going already in the e-commerce selling online. We have an e-commerce website, but we're not currently using any Google Ads. We have an e-commerce website and we are using Google Ads, but not any shopping yet. We have an e-commerce site and we have already tried various types of shopping ads. We are already using Performance Max and want to learn more. So let's see. Can you see the results, Jordan? I think I've got the wrong permissions today. I'm going to beat up. I have to beat up the marketing team for not putting me in as a management manager today because I can't really help you very much, I'm afraid.
You say that, but normally I don't want to go through as you because mine doesn't normally work. So
Well, it's a good thing you're in as yourself, and you're obviously the god of the webinar today. So, what sort of results are we getting? If you read out the percentages for each of those,
yeah. So it's there's a 2-horse race at the moment. So it's between 33% of people saying we are already using Performance Max ads and want to learn more, and then 28% of people are saying no, I'm not working for business at the moment, and our business does not have e-commerce. So sort of two ends of the spectrum, I guess. And then
that's going to be interesting teaching those real beginners and the people that know their stuff at the same time. So I'm sure you'll be.
And then we have about 28% of people combined who either have an e-commerce site and are not currently using Google, or they are using Google but not shopping ads.
So it's a bit of a mixed audience, isn't it?
So it's a little bit of a mixed audience. So hopefully I'll be of help today. It doesn't look like anyone has an e-commerce site and has already tried shopping ads. So it doesn't look like anyone has done that. So either they haven't done it or they're already past that and they're using Performance Max sort of thing. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of the smart shopping upgraded to Performance Max anyway, didn't it? So, they might have been forced into using it without realizing the implications. Okay, then, if you want to share your screen, I'm going to turn my mic and camera off. I'll be answering the questions for you today, Jordan, and I'll reappear. How many slides have you got?
I haven't got too many. I've got about 30 odd, but I like to talk. So
we know.
Right, let me share my screen.
That's fine. Okay, so you need to sit it. That's brilliant. And if anybody wants to make the screen bigger, at the top of the presentation, top right, there's a little arrow which allows you to increase your screen size. So I'll see you in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, perfect. Hi everyone. Yeah, as Adam says, my name's Jordan. So today I'll be sort of going through Performance Max and sort of giving you some tips and tricks and some sort of technical knowledge that I've sort of gained from actually using them. So I'm a senior paid media account manager at Annika. I think I've been over here about 3 years, something like that. So I'm sort of becoming part of the furniture now. So sort of my day-to-day job is doing the likes of Performance Max campaigns. So I've sort of learned a lot since the introduction. In terms of Annika, so established in 2007, I think there's about 26 staff now and over 46 clients. So we have sort of grown quite a lot since I've been here, and we're obviously continuing to grow. This is sort of the team. So luckily I'm not on the bottom row, I'm mid row, the only one without a coloured picture, etc. But that's sort of the team. But I'm sure you've probably seen this slide in the other webinars if you've attended one before. But this is just a mugshot of all of us. These are sort of the services we do. So analytics, creative, paid media, which is where I sort of find myself day to day. Social media, I find myself there as well. So yeah, we sort of have a range of services, a range of things we can help your business with if you find our webinars useful. Pedigree. I actually work with some of these clients at the bottom, which is always nice to see them being put there. So yeah, we've worked with tons of big clients in the past, and these are just a couple of them. So what is Performance Max? So Performance Max is, I sort of saw it when they released Performance Max. I sort of found myself as being Woody and Google Ads being Buzz, and sort of trying to tell me this exciting thing, which was Performance Max. So I often refer to it because I get a bit lazy, but I refer to it as PMax just because it's easier to say. But PMax was released in November 2021, so that's where people start getting access to it and being able to create campaigns. So Performance Max is effectively a campaign type which encompasses all of basically Google's products. So you can do search ads, display ads, discovery ads. It has some maps in there as well, so when people are looking for like locations, Gmail, and also YouTube. So before Performance Max, these were sort of all their own campaign types, with the exception of Discovery and Gmail being combined together about a year previous. So I guess that was a bit of a indication of what was to come when they started combining stuff into Discovery. But yeah, so Performance Max is basically a campaign which lets you do all of this in just one place. And I believe Google's sort of selling point of it is it makes it easier for people to manage, and it makes it easier for small businesses to basically get their brand out there. Because Performance Max, if used the way Google want you to use it, it sort of encompasses the whole buyer funnel, from brand awareness with the likes of display and YouTube to sort of more lower end funnels of search, so people actively searching for a product. And it also then encompasses display and stuff again with remarketing. So it sort of covers the whole buying funnel. It is sort of the objective behind Performance Max. So I guess Performance Max is sort of the next step for Google in terms of automating the process of managing a Google Ads account. It's for people who have been in Google Ads for 5-10 years. You might look fondly back on what it was before, where you could do single keyword ad groups and be very micromanage the account to the nth degree, and that sort of got slowly taken away. Automated bidding came in. Now we've got extended text ads, and we only have responsive search ads. So it's slowly sort of moving towards more of this automation and letting Google sort of do the learning and the tweaks. So yeah, Performance Max is sort of the next logical step, I guess. And I think it's probably stepped a bit too far, but if they then start giving us stuff back, we start to look at it positively. So they probably overstepped the mark intentionally to then start giving us back stuff and us being really happy about it. So yeah, the thing with Performance Max is it's heavily reliant on machine learning and you saw the audience information you give it. So when you set these campaigns up, giving it customer lists, giving it, purchases from the last 360 days, things like that help Performance Max campaigns. And you sort of have to give it quite a lot of budget. So, bare minimum £20 a day, but realistically, you're probably looking at more towards the £100 a day mark to give it enough data to learn. And you can quite quickly see if you've got a small ad account and your £100 a day is spread over several search campaigns, several standard shopping campaigns, etc. If you do want to really get the most out of Performance Max, you end up just basically winning one campaign, which I think sort of Google want you to do to some degree. But there are the happy in betweens of that, but that's sort of the things we've found as well is you sort of have to give it a lot of money and a lot of information to actually make it do well. So Performance Max it's a bit like the people who have used them will know this, but it's a bit like a black box. You sort of chuck your information in, you tell Google what you want, and then Google will do something. It's like a magic trick, and then it will either give you a result, or it won't give you the results you want. But if you actually then try to look into the data and actually see why it has done that or why it hasn't done that, you basically can't draw any conclusions because the data is so tiny. It's very much, it's good if it's working, it's not good if it's not working, you can't do anything about it, sort of thing. So it makes a lot of digital marketers a bit uneasy because we just can't see anything really. So yeah, that was definitely me. I was Woody when they first brought it out. So Performance Max, when it did get released, it sort of started to replace some other campaign types. So again, if you were doing sort of Google Ads before 2021, you would probably be aware of Smart Shopping, which was, again, it was the next step in terms of Google automating the process a little bit from standard shopping to Smart Shopping. And I don't think I'm the only one, but I think Smart Shopping was quite successful. It helped a lot of people out. And Google then decided to sort of retire that and auto upgrade all of them Smart Shopping campaigns. It started around July, and I think it went through to about September 2022. They were just slowly auto upgrading Smart Shopping campaigns to Performance Max campaigns. And they also sort of replaced local ads. So they sort of auto upgraded them at the same time. So as you can see the image on the right side, that's what sort of it feels like to be a digital marketer with your experience. You're sort of trying to hold all these updates back, but at the end of the day, they're just going to come piling through anyway, and you can't do anything about it. So Performance Max tends to be prioritized over campaign types. So I think it's still the case. Google will say opposite and try to reassure you that it doesn't. But if you had a search campaign running and you set a Performance Max campaign running sort of targeting the same stuff, then you would probably see your search campaign plummet to effectively zero and the PMax campaign take all of that traffic. So it does sort of get prioritized. You sort of have to then manage how you set up the PMax campaigns to ensure that you're only, using it for what you're wanting to use it for, because you can quite easily mess up some of the settings and it'll just, tank half your sort of legacy campaigns you have running. But, it is coming through that door. So we sort of, we have to react and actually, learn it and see how we can best optimize Performance Max. So setting up a Performance Max campaign. So again, from sort of, having to sort of get forced into doing, I guess, which is always the way most people have to do stuff when they like stuff. So I've sort of learned a couple of things along the way and how best to sort of set up the campaign. So, if it's all going well, then, it's perfect. But if it's not going well, you will want to then start looking into the campaign and trying to squeeze out the data to see why it isn't working. So one good way of doing this is when setting up a Performance Max campaign, for example, you might have 20 brands that you sell. Instead of creating a Performance Max for each of them brands, which you would sort of tend to do potentially with a smart shopping campaign or standard shopping campaign, you would lob all of them 20 brands into one Performance Max campaign. So then, you know, it's got all its data, it's all consolidated in one campaign, and it can learn a lot better. But then you sort of then want to split them brands out. So what you then might do is you can split it out to up to 100 asset groups. So you might have 20 asset groups, for example, one, with each one having a brand. So you can get a little bit more insight, and you can also then sort of customize each asset group. So the ones you see here are sort of the trickery as well, in terms of the only thing you can see on this screenshot here is effectively a feed being filtered to that brand. And effectively that is like a hack to do smart shopping within Performance Max campaigns. So I've given it audience signals instead of in terms of purchases. I've given it an in-market audience, so like people in the market for tree service equipment, tree removal equipment, etc. And that asset group is targeting just that brand. But if you were to do a more standard Performance Max campaign, you would happen to hear as well like loads of images and loads of headlines and loads of descriptions. Now, if you have got 20 different brands in one campaign, you don't want just one asset group trying to talk about them 20 brands. What you will want is 20 asset groups, each with its individual brand, and then in the headline you can name drop the brand, you can talk about the benefits of that brand, etc.
Jordan, can I just interrupt you a second, because we've got quite a lot of newbies here.
Yeah.
So can you just explain why you need a product feed for the people that have never done shopping ads before, and what that means, and why when we had shopping ads before, you would set up the campaign and use the shopping feed, but the naming structure has changed as well. So could you just explain what it used to be called and what it's called now? So there's two things really: is what's a feed and why do you need it, and what's the new naming structure compared with what they might be familiar if they use the old shopping ads?
I mean, all I know of the shopping ads being called were shopping ads.
And then product ad groups and product groups, weren't they? And now they're being called product.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
You see what I mean? You do know it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a feed, so what a feed is it's basically on your website. If you had an e-commerce website, you would have tons of products on that website, and effectively what it is, it's either like a plugin or a Google Sheet or some sort of API which scrapes that information off your website. So, for example, you might have a product page for each product you sell, and it'll have its price, it'll have its product description, it'll have the name, it might have, you know, the manufacturer number of that product. And effectively what you do is you scrape that information off and you put it into what's called a feed. And what that feed does is then you provide that to Google through Google Merchant Center. And then when someone searches, for example, if they searched for Nike trainers, if your feed had in it a Nike trainer, and Google, based on, you know, the intent of the user, however they work that out, if they think that your Nike trainer is the one that the person searching for wants to see, then in the shopping ad, which is sort of them tiles at the top of the search engine, your ad will effectively appear within there. So it's sort of, based on, it's scraping data from your website, putting it into a feed, and then Google then looking at that feed and determining if your product should be shown or not. It's a bit, I guess it's a little bit like organic search. You know, they sort of Google crawls your website, sees the information and sort of stores it, and then if someone searches for something and it thinks that you're what they're looking for, they sort of show your website. So it's sort of like that.
That's brilliant. And then basically what you're saying here, which is what you're showing, is that when you create these asset groups within a campaign, you use the elements within the feed. So if you've got a brand, you can use that brand in one asset group and then another brand in another asset group. That's just bringing everybody up to date so everybody understands where you are. So thanks, Jordan. That's amazing.
It's all right. Sometimes
Sorry
I do
to
try
put you
to.
off your stride, but I'm just concerned that if we had very few people that were beginners, it probably would have been not necessary.
No, that's okay. Yeah, yeah, you can tell. I can talk for England, and I can get away. I can win away with it in terms of the technical knowledge. But yeah, so this is one way of splitting it out. As you say before, when you were doing sort of standard shopping, you would have potentially a campaign for each brand, or you would maybe split it down at the product level, I believe it was called, which is effectively asset group level. They've just sort of renamed it. Yeah, this is just a good way of sort of optimizing your optimizing your account to sort of see what's happening. Sort of taking it one step further. So once you've split, for example, them asset groups into 20 different asset groups, you will then go into each asset group and split it down by ID. And effectively what this does is it gives you some more data. So you can see here the amount of data it starts telling you about each individual product. So you can see the style. So row 2, that's giving you an overview of the brand in total in terms of the amount of impressions, clicks, the amount you've spent on that brand, etc. And then if you split it by ID, you can actually then start to see what product is costing you the most to market for, what product is generating the most conversion value for you, etc. So you can start to pick out things which are maybe spending a lot of money and not getting you any conversions, or on the flip side, ones that are getting you loads of conversions for not much money. Now you sort of have to be careful with this, because obviously you want it to have a lot of data to then make a decision on if something is good or bad. But I guess this function here is more to do with being able to exclude the IDs which are costing you money and not getting you a return. It's a lot harder, I guess, to do it the other way around, where there's 1 or 2 products getting you all the return. You can't really split them into their own campaign very easily these days. So this is more, giving you the being able to find the information at a product level to be able to optimize and get rid of the wasteful, the wasteful products. It might also be that even before you start the campaigns, that's a certain product IDs that you just do not want to promote, certain products you don't want to promote because you will never get the return on ad spend. And so you could come into here and exclude these even before you get the campaign running. So this is a little bit like what standard shopping campaigns were like. So you still do have this access, but you sort of have to set up slightly differently to get to the same point as before. Now, this is a very big one. So if there's anything you take away from today, it's this slide. So when you sort of go into the campaign settings, now, I was going to screen grab all of it, and it was too much information. So I've just screen grabbed a little bit of it. But if you go through the process of creating a campaign, you can scroll to the bottom and you'll see sort of campaign settings, and then this little blue button called additional settings. So what you'll find with Google as well is if they ever do like a drop down option, always click on it, because Google like to hide stuff in them drop downs. Now in this drop down, you'll find something called final URL expansion, and it will be automatically turned on whenever you're creating a new campaign. And what you want to be doing is turning that off. The reason for this is if you're, for example, running a Performance Max campaign, let's, for example, say that you're doing it slightly different to what I've just been speaking about, and you have 2 Performance Max campaigns, and one is advertising Nike, one is advertising Adidas. And so in them feeds, Google obviously would have scraped the product ID, what the product is, the product price. It would also scrape that landing page, that URL. And so when you then run them 2 Performance Max campaigns, you might have the Adidas one with only the Adidas URLs, the Nike one with only the Nike URL. So you can sort of determine when people are going to the site and they're going onto the Nike page, they're generating this much revenue, etc. If you keep expanded URLs on, Google will then say, For example, in your Nike Performance Max campaign, they might say, oh, but this URL is relevant, and it could be an Adidas one. And for example, what you're then doing is just churning all the different URLs into completely random campaigns, and you can't actually distinguish if it's an Adidas or a Nike sort of product they're actually seeing in that Performance Max campaign. And one thing we found when we, I'm gonna out her, but Holly, our very experienced BBC manager, when I was working on the account with her, accidentally left it on. So she left it on for about a day, I think, or 2 days. And what we actually found is we got loads of sales, which was great. But then we went to look and see why we got them sales, and because they weren't, because the products weren't broken down in that Performance Max. So if I go back to this one, for example, say these are all the IDs we were targeting, because we had the expanded URL on, when people purchased a product which wasn't in this campaign, broken down like this, we could just not retrieve the data. So we were being told that we had conversion value of about $9,000, but we could just not see it anywhere. We sort of managed to half track it down in analytics, but we just, we couldn't find it in Performance Max. So again, in terms of looking at performance and saying, okay, why is performance good or bad? Having expanded URLs on it, it sort of just hides half the information. So as I say, if you take one thing from this webinar, it's turn off the expanded URLs. Now there is an update which came out yesterday, which will help to some degree with this, but I still see it being a problem. So, and I would also say Performance Max doesn't need any help in getting out there. You know, it's very good at spending your money, very good at getting impressions and clicks, etc. So it doesn't need any expanded URLs to let it get further. You sort of want to hold it back if possible. So account level negatives. So this is one, again, this is an update that's just come out yesterday as well. But before that update, what you had to do is you had to chuck all of your keywords that you didn't want to appear for. So stuff like, you know, you see here stuff like vodka, weed, you know, really weird stuff, you know, scam, jobs, potentially, if you're not a recruitment company. All of this sort of really rubbish keywords that you'll never want to be appearing for. What you had to do before this update that came in yesterday, or the it's not actually come into force yet, but it was released by Google telling us that they're going to do it, is to put all of these into a negative keyword list and then go to your Google Ad support and ask them to apply it to the Performance Max campaigns on account level. So it's a bit of a, you know, it took a bit of time. It was, you know, again, Google just making it that little bit more difficult for you to start optimizing and getting rid of them wasteful keywords and not appearing for certain things. So this one should be easier moving into the future, but for now you effectively have to go to Google Ads support and ask them to apply account level negatives to your Performance Max campaign. And I would recommend it, especially one that we've found as well is brand. Performance Max absolutely loves taking your brand traffic. So if you're okay with that, then fine. But I imagine if you're trying to run a generic campaign to just sort of build your overall sales, you probably don't want Google taking all your brand traffic and claiming that Performance Max is the best campaign ever, when you potentially had a brand campaign already set up, or you know, you could have maybe got that organically. So I'd always suggest, unless intentional, try to remove your brand from your Performance Max campaigns. So as I said, there's one of the screen grabs I showed you early on is sort of a smart shopping sort of. So what you do here basically, when you again go through the campaign setup, you'll see all these boxes where you can put in headlines, you can put in descriptions, you can change the call to action to like shop now, or you know, you can add in images, you can add in videos, you can do all this different stuff and give it Performance Max all these different assets for them to then use. But if you want to do smart shopping, sort of, then all you provide Google with is your logo, your business name, a final URL, and then a feed. And you don't provide it with anything else. You don't give it any images, you don't give it any videos, you don't give it any headlines. You leave call to action as automated. And effectively what this does is it limits how much Google can then go to the likes of YouTube, display, search, because it just doesn't have the assets. So you'll find that the majority of your budget will then be spent purely on shopping, on the shopping network. There'll be a little bit that still finds its way into like a search result or a display campaign, but as I say, the majority of it will just end up being a smart shopping campaign. And from what we've found so far, there was a beta test that we got access to, which I believe is now mainstream, but it was basically running traditional shopping versus Performance Max, and we just found Performance Max worked so much better. Just I guess Google prioritizing their brand new product, being, that obviously there's no evidence for that, but you just do think that. But yeah, so that's how you can do smart shopping, by just setting up the campaign in a certain way. So sort of old techniques reimagined. So again, imagine if any of you were doing it, 2 or 3 years ago, there'll be some sort of old techniques, which I guess you're still doing, but just to remind you of them. So one of them is ad scheduling. So sort of when you are in the dashboard on the left-hand side, you'll see a row of sort of tabs, and one of them will be ad scheduling. Effectively, what this is if you see that little blue pencil, you can click on that and you can sort of do time bands. So you can say all days between the hours of 6 in the morning and 9 in the morning, and then click save, and then do another one and say between Monday 12 till 3, etc. And what that does is it sort of overlays these boxes. So if you see that coloured in box above, it sort of gives you big sections where you can sort of get the data bulked together and say, okay, between, for example, Wednesday 12 till 3 in the afternoon, we get most of our conversions. And what effectively you would do in the past is you would do bid adjustments on that and basically say you're willing to pay more for them certain times of the day. So ad scheduling is, in terms of Performance Max, is just good to overlay as well. You can get like an hourly breakdown if you so wish, but you can also then overlay additional if you want, and basically see where your conversion value is happening, what times of the day it's happening, potentially what days that, times of the day where you spend loads of money and don't get anything. So it might be midnight till 3 in the morning. Most people might start clicking on stuff, but they're never purchasing anything. So you're spending loads of money before the day even starts in the early hours of the morning. So I believe what you can do is you can still exclude times of the day as well. I don't, from my knowledge, know how well the bid adjustments work, because obviously Performance Max being very automated in terms of automated bidding tends to override the manual element of bid adjustments, I believe. The bid adjustments is more for if you're doing a manual bidding strategy, like cost per click, where you tell Google you're willing to pay, for example, a maximum of £1.50, and sort of Google doesn't go any further than that. And the bid adjustment would then say, for example, plus 10%. So you'd say, I'm willing to pay £1.50, but on these certain times of the day, I'm willing to pay 10% more than that. So I don't know how well that works with automated bidding, but in terms of ad scheduling, and give you the insight of what times of the day you'll get the most conversion value, what times of the day you get the most conversions, etc. Ad scheduling is still a good thing to be using and looking at when it comes to Performance Max campaigns. Oh, I've gone back. Another one which is really good. So, for example, if you're targeting UK-wide, your campaign is UK-wide, or it might be, worldwide. It might be targeting parts of Asia or Europe, etc. Obviously, you want the targeting to be, if we go back to the example of UK, you want a UK-wide location target. But then in addition to that, you can then overlay additional targeting. So you might, drop pins around for major cities in the UK, or where all your stores are located, or whatever it may be. And effectively, what that will do is it will give you a bit more insight into what parts of the UK you're seeing better conversions. Now, it's not obviously amazing data because it does miss some stuff, but again, if you're trying to squeeze a little bit more information out of Performance Max campaigns, this is another way of doing it in terms of overlaying additional targeting over your main targeting, just to get a bit more insight into parts of the UK which are potentially giving you better conversions, for example. You also have something called a predefined report. So this is sort of in the top right corner. You'll have a little tab called reports, and if you click on that, you'll see sort of right down the bottom there's believe it's called like other. Again, I think it's hidden away a little bit, but if you click on other, you'll see one which is called Performance Max campaign placement. And what this effectively does is it gives you a breakdown of sort of where your Performance Max placements have been. So, for example, you can see here, a lot of them are Google owned and operated, like, sites they own or they have agreements with to promote their display ads on. And that's all hidden away, obviously, because it's Google. But you can see also underneath, you have a lot of more breakdowns, like ebay.co.uk. You have mobile apps, you have stuff like Gumtree. So these are all places that your ad has appeared on. So what you can do with this is you can effectively download this document and apply these account level through a display campaign type. So again, they make it difficult to do it. I don't know if I've got another tab on it. Yeah, so they make it a little bit difficult for you to do this, but you have to have a display campaign already like set up in the account to open up the options. But once you've done that, you then have to click into that display campaign and go into the placements, and it then sort of leads you to this area where you can then do placement exclusions. So again, it doesn't make it easy, but you can go in here and you can exclude, for example, one that I'd always recommend is app categories, because again, most of these are going to be your ad showing up on someone's phone when they're trying to play a game or use an app, and they tend to be, for whatever reason, they tend to have tiny little X's in the corner that you try to click on to get rid of the ad, and it will just then sort of click onto the ad rather than getting rid of it. So I'd always suggest getting rid of sort of games, placements, etc. But you can also, as you can see at the top, there's add placement exclusions, there's use placement exclusion list as well. And you can also enter the URL separately. So for example, if you download all of these placements, you can effectively then just copy and paste them into here and exclude all of them extra ones that you don't want to be appearing for. For example, you might want to be appearing on ebay.co.uk, but you probably don't want to be appearing for mobile app Happy Color. So this is more sort of app optimization. But yeah, it's for people who have run display campaigns in the past, you probably know there's a lot this happens. So you can do the same for Performance Max, but it's just it's hidden away from you. But I would always recommend it, because obviously this is, people clicking on these things is money that's being spent on these sort of rubbish clicks rather than actually through a shopping ad campaign or a genuine search campaign. So accessing the data. So if you have a Performance Max campaign running and you just decide to click on that campaign, the campaign name, and it will sort of shoot you through to this page, which is sort of a dashboard overlook. And it'll give you some really nice looking graphs and some reports and tell you sort of about ad strength or, top bidding signals and all this sort of stuff, which is all well and good. But to some extent, for example, the top bidding signals, you can't really do much about it because it's automated bidding. Google's then using that stuff to then determine when it spends more or less, etc. So there's sort of useful data, but to some degree not. It's just a load of information chucked on a page, and it doesn't really let you drill down into anything. So, it has stuff like campaign insights. Again, it will just give you all these nice graphs with some nice fluffy insight message, but not really much more. It's sort of very limiting, not that useful. It will tell you stuff like consumer spotlight. So again, it will tell you sort of search categories, and this potentially is one of the better parts of it, I guess, in terms of the campaign insight tab that you'll find. And for example, this might tell you if there's certain brands which are taking a majority of traffic, or it might be your brand name might actually be Honey Brewers, for example. And in which case, it's shown you here that a majority of the conversions, or quite a big proportion of the conversions, are going through your brand. So again, that would be an indicator of that you potentially want to remove the brand keyword from your Performance Max campaigns, because it will just be distorting that campaign. You'll be thinking it's doing a lot better than it potentially might be. If you are, as I say, if you are not wanting to sort of bid on your own brand name. It sort of gives you a campaign insights tab, also gives you sort of search trends and demand forecasts. Somewhat useful, I guess, but I'd always recommend, if you are looking to do stuff like search trends, is quite literally just search for Google Trends, and they have a dedicated sort of page for you to sort of put in your keywords and see what the trend is over the last 12 months, 5 years, etc. It's probably a bit more useful than pre-selected ones, where they're probably, again, being a bit, negative, but they might be hiding some things from you in this very nice looking table. So always just go to Google Trends and mess around with it yourself, rather than using these sort of pre-made insight tabs. One thing I would suggest when trying to access the data is using filters. So instead of just clicking on, for example, you can see it's sort of hyperlinked. So if you click on that blue text, so in PMax example UK, you click on that, it will go through to the stuff I showed you previously. Instead of doing that, you want to be applying a filter. So you can see this add filter bit. So you click on that, and you then select campaign, and then the parameters would be campaign either matches or it contains PMax. And what that will do is then, if you've got loads of different search campaigns or Performance Max campaigns in your account, it will just get rid of all of them and just show you the one you want to see. And it will give you sort of a nice graph above that as well, which is actually useful, which is just dedicated to the campaign you're wishing to view. On top of that, again, you'll see all this information to the right. Now, some of them are custom labels, so like ROAS there, you won't actually see that, but you'll see cost per conversion is the column, or not cost per conversion, sorry. Conversion value divided by cost, and then you'll have one which is conversion value divided by cost by time is another sort of column you have available. But you can then start to mess around. As I say, like I've put some custom columns in here to give me some information about sort of average order values and things like that. And this gives you a lot more information of how your campaigns are doing, if you're getting the return on ad spend you require. As I say, you can get a graph that goes above this as well, and that gives you over time. It sort of shows you if you want to look on a weekly or monthly basis, sort of if there's parts of the month where, for example, if you wanted to drill back down into the data and say, why in January did we not get any we got a drop in sales compared to last month or the year previously, you can actually then drill down into the data here and actually see there might have been a plummet in impressions for the first week of January, or you might have just not had the cost per conversion. So for each purchase that happened, the cost of doing that doubled, for example, and that might explain why you didn't get the same amount of conversion value as previous months. So this using filters is a really quick and easy way of breaking down the information within the PMax campaigns. It's probably if you are running other campaigns, it's probably what you're used to. If you're running like a search campaign, you're used to probably seeing this type of information. But yeah, I'd recommend this one. It's one of the best ways of finding the data as well. Auction insights. So this is only available if your sort of PMax campaigns has headlines and descriptions, because obviously headlines and descriptions means that Google can show your PMax campaign within the search area. So obviously when you search for something, you see all them search results, and that's what we call a search campaign. So this will give you a bit of a breakdown into how you're appearing in terms of who else is appearing next to you. It might be competitors. You might be able to see, obviously you can change the date range, and you can see over time if your impression share is increasing or decreasing. As I say, for example, if you were trying to show for Nike trainers, you might go into this auction insights and see over time how you're doing in terms of trying to appear for like the Nike area of your company, in total. Again, it's a bit limiting to a certain degree, because it's very much your Performance Max campaign as a whole, search auction insights side, rather than again, if you've used search campaigns before, you might have done auction insights before, and normally what you would do with search campaigns is split them out in a logical way, and therefore the auction insights is probably a bit more useful because you sort of know the parameters, whereas Performance Max, it's a bit of a black box. But it does, again, if you are running search campaigns with PMax, this does give you a little bit of insight into how you're doing in comparison to your competitors, but there might not be actually too much actionable data you can pull from this. And now the last one, which I've found probably one of the most useful, is using scripts. So there's sort of been scripts that have come and gone, but the main one at the moment in terms of the PMax area is won by Mike Rhodes. So I think he owns Agency Savvy, and he's been working on scripts since I think PMax came out, and this is version 20 of his script. And effectively, if you go to this link at the bottom, you can access the script and follow the instructions. He sort of gives good instructions on how to put the script into your ad accounts. It's all pretty straightforward. But what this script does is it sort of starts to break down all the information and give you that information in more of a visible way, so you can actually just sort of look at the dashboards, and it gives you all the important information rather than having to scavenge around for it. So, for example, it gives you stuff like the shopping cost, the video cost, the display cost, other cost. So it starts to give you an indication across your different Performance Max campaigns, the percentage of the budget which is being used on the shopping network, the amount that's being used for like video and display, and the amount that's being done for search. So it's a good thing to look at, because obviously stuff like display and video might be a bit more top level, whereas stuff like search and shopping might be lower down the funnel. So to some degree, you won't want to be seeing 100% of your Performance Max costs being used on display network, for example. So yeah, this sort of gives you a breakdown of sort of how your Performance Max campaigns are spending money, I guess. It also gives you more granular data. So it starts telling you the amount of costs, the total cost of that campaign, the conversions, conversion values. It basically breaks all the data, pulls all the data out to Google and puts it in this sort of spreadsheet for you. So you can just sort of go into here, and again, you can maybe spot trends, spot campaigns which are not driving the rush you want it to drive, etc. So it sort of, instead of having to scurry around the campaigns to find this information, using this script in particular sort of pulls that information out for you. Because there is stuff on the Google Ads sort of dashboard that aren't visible to you, and you can only sort of pull that information out through a script, so it's sort of hidden in the background. Can give you more information, gives you more campaign breakdowns as well. So for example, here it gives you all your campaigns, and then next to it gives you asset group names. So for example, if you imagine earlier if we had that Australia high stock target ROAS 6.25 times, so the third campaign, and we'd split that into 20 asset groups. In this tab, you'd see then 20 asset groups broken down, and it'd be telling you the impression conversions, value, ROAS, etc. of each of them asset groups. Now, over time, you might keep track of them and determine that 2 or 3 of them asset groups are just constant loss leaders. You know, you're constantly spending £200-400 and getting nothing back. So this is a really easy way of spotting them trends and potentially, for example, pausing them asset groups and pausing the promotion of certain brands, for example. So it starts to give you stuff like the ad group impressions. So the black line, I believe, is overall, and then the left-hand side is sort of the different asset groups. So again, if you're wanting to sort of take a deep dive into each campaign and see how each asset group is doing in terms of the amount of impressions, this is a really good way to see it, because you might find that 1 or 2 of the asset groups basically get the majority of the impressions and clicks, and potentially are basically taking most of the budget. So again, that might be an insight you can pull from this script and basically then push them into their own campaign and give them their own budget to allow all the other brands in that original campaign to at least start showing. And again, this script should make it a lot clearer for you to see sort of them trends potentially. It also has another one for costs. So again, if you saw that was a certain asset group spending most of your campaign budget, that might be an indicator of pulling that one out into its own campaign. And then the other one obviously is value. So you can also split Performance Max campaigns based on several things. So you can do it on brands. You can probably do it on product types. So if you're a bathroom seller, you might have a Performance Max campaign for toilets, one for baths, one for showers. But you can also do it on sort of conversion value. So you can either do this, we can do it several different ways. So you could, through that feed, so you can go into Merchant Center and create a supplementary feed, which sort of overwrites some of the data that is being pushed through from your website. And effectively, the supplementary feed can be used to add custom labels. So effectively, what this is you might have all these products being pushed through, and they have obviously different prices, but you could apply a custom label to say that anything that is between £0 and £10, it has the custom label of £0 to £10. Then another one for products between £10 and £20, etc., etc. So you can put them custom labels on, and then when you go to create a Performance Max campaign, you can set them up based on custom labels and have campaigns based on different prices or different return on ad spends. For example, you might know from the products you're selling what ones have high margins, which ones have low margins. So you might do a custom label for that and split your Performance Max campaigns out that way. Or you might run a sort of catch-all campaign, so that's literally all your products into one Performance Max campaign, let the Google learn and sort of determine some of the data, either looking into the dashboard yourself or use a script to then start to look at what asset groups are performing, what ones are getting you the highest ROAS, and then over time you can sort of separate them into like high return on ad spend brands and low return on ad spend brands, and sort of split the campaigns out that way. And obviously, the more high return on ad spend brands, you probably want to be putting more your budget towards them and less towards the low ROAS ones. So yeah, there's loads of different ways you can split out. You can split out your campaigns, and this sort of stuff gives you the insight. The impression share, the conversion value share, the cost share, etc. So these are useful for that. But we did have some scripts which were also really good, but have been lost. So there was a script that was around for about a month, I think, or a couple of weeks, which deleted auto-created Performance Max videos. So you do run the risk. I don't think it's so common when you don't have anything, but if you're running a Performance Max campaign with headlines, descriptions, and images, more than likely Google will then auto create a video based on that, and effectively it's like a slideshare of like images. It's a really rubbish video, so you obviously you don't really want it. You don't really want it, and if you haven't got a video you can put in, then more than likely Google will create one for you. And there was a script that basically auto deleted them, auto created PMax videos. Now it was working, stopped working, and I did some research, and effectively Google said, "Oh yeah, it's working as it should." So I think take from that they basically stopped people doing that. They didn't like people auto deleting their auto created videos for some reason. And another script that seems to have sort of fallen off the face of the earth is there was a script which was which could add converting PMax search terms. You'd sort of give parameters. So, for example, you say if a keyword converts and the cost per acquisition, so the cost of getting that conversion is less than say £10, then add it as a, again, you would specify if you want to add in as an exact phrase or broad. And effectively what this script would do is then, so if you got convert a term, it would then put it into a predetermined campaign. And over time, you'd start building up this campaign based on converting search terms. But again, that sort of disappeared for whatever reason. So they're the two main ones which were super useful, but we can't do. But maybe at some point in the future, Google might give us the option of doing that. And then this is what I was just on about earlier. Literally yesterday, they released an update saying that moving forward, we will be able to add account level negative keywords. So currently what we have to do is obviously go through the Google ad support, but moving forward, we can do that ourselves. And we can also do a campaign level brand exclusions. So for example, you might want to exclude your brand from certain campaigns, but not other ones, for whatever reason. But moving forward, we should be able to do that as well now. Sort of, because obviously the brand thing as well is it's sort of brand protection to a certain degree. That's what I guess that's what I was claiming when I wanted all these things removing, is sort of to protect your brand and protect where your brand is shown, etc. Moving forward, we should be able to do that at a campaign level. And the last major one is page feeds that will enable you to find your URL expansion. So again, there's not too many details on this, I don't believe, but it's effectively moving forward. You should be able to upload a file to tell Google what URLs you want them to send people to and which ones you don't, effectively. So that in effect, you're not letting Google just go through your whole website. You're sort of confining it to where you're happy for it to show URLs if it's deemed unfit to show them. So they're the three sort of main updates coming to Performance Max. As I said at the start, I think they sort of overstepped the automation of PMax. So when they start then giving us back access like this, we all sort of start to celebrate to some degree. And I believe that was my last slide. So that's...
Thank you, Jordan. I've got a few questions for you. I'm just going to stick the Google review. So if you like what Jordan's told you about Performance Max, if you could leave him a review, that would be amazing. I'm now getting a problem that I can't actually show it. So let me just... Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay. I told you that I like talking.
I know.
I thought I was going to finish really early as well, but
I can't. I think that's. Have you seen? Has it worked out? No. Has it come across?
No, I've not seen anything.
Let's see. I'm having trouble with the settings today, so I don't know what. Could you, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you've got a little next to the music signal on the right hand side. If you click on that right ad offers there, can you see?
Yeah.
And
is it the Google one or the review
reviews
IO?
IO one? Yep. Okay, I'm going to go through while you're clicking that. If you can click on that, that would be brilliant. Send it and then do it as full screen, and hopefully that will work this time, because it didn't work for me. So I'm just going to do the questions about, I'm just going to go back a stage. So one of the things that, did it work?
I don't know.
I haven't seen it, but let me just see if it will. It's very weird.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Okay. One of the things that wasn't clear at the beginning, which we sort of discussed, was the fact that when you set up Performance Max, a lot of people have used that because it's been auto updated from Smart Shopping, which is why it's got a feed. But actually, it's also got a lot of other assets, which is why it's called an asset group. So you can add a text ad, video, images, etc. And so for a lot of people, you could use it even if you haven't got shopping. And I think you probably need to expand why that's important.
I mean, I sort of skipped over that because I haven't done too much with it without the e-commerce element. But the stuff I have done, I didn't really see that much from it. I think when it first came out, it was very much like a lead type campaign, wasn't it? But I think Google, the way Google seems to be going with it as well, is they're pushing it more towards the e-commerce element as well. That's what I've found. There might be people who found differently, but that's why sort of I didn't explore that side of it, because I wasn't that convinced by it.
I think what we're seeing with Google is they're automating everything. And so things like dynamic search ads, which means you don't have to put in text. So you don't have to put in key phrases to get text ads. You've got the Performance Max and the standard shopping, although they do think they're going to keep the standard shopping for a little bit longer. But all these really are moving towards more automation, so anybody can set up an account. I think it just makes it more and more complicated, and you have to know what you're doing even more. So that was the first thing. Now,
well, the thing they like to, and just quickly on that, what they like to do as well, if you create a brand new Google Ads account, they like to give you like smart version or something like that, and it's basically like chuck in your credit card, chuck in some keywords, and we'll spend your money.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to do that. It's expert mode, which is just normal mode. But they, it's sometimes with Google they like to make it look easier when it's not.
Harj wants to ask a little bit more about what you meant by expand the URL. So first of all, if you've got a shopping feed, to add a URL, you only add a URL with a text ad, don't you? So why the hell have you got this setting about expanding the URLs? Can you explain what that means and why we turn it off?
So if it was so if you weren't using Performance Max for e-commerce, you'd obviously have a landing page within that asset group, and it could expand on that. But equally with the e-commerce side, so you do have a feed, and obviously it has all these items with all these URLs, but you might not have all of them in your Performance Max campaign. So Google will effectively go out there and look on your website, and if you haven't got all the URLs in your feed, it might go out there and find, for example, Nike/Air trainers, and if you haven't currently got that in the PMax campaign, it will then go, well, that's relevant. I'm going to show that one to potential searchers as well. So it sort of expands the URLs if it thinks you've missed some, which you probably are wanting to miss them for a certain reason.
Yeah, I mean, the general thing with Google is if Google can make more money, it will make a feature the default. And it's only when you turn it off that you get the best results. So generally, a rule of thumb is if Google gives you a feature like that and there's a tick box, you need to investigate it and generally turn it off, because otherwise you're getting that expansion, which you don't want. And you can get
they've now done with search as well. Now they've again, if you set up a search campaign, it will have to default as include display network. Exactly. And what they've done now is they've actually grayed out that box to make it appear like you can't untick it. So again, they do this trickery to basically try to get you spending more.
Yeah, no, that is a real pain in the bum. Now, the other thing that we didn't really talk much about is audiences. So you're not really doing audience targeting with PMax, but I know that we've talked about a trick within Annika of actually, if you've already got an audience for your the the users that have already converted, this could be quite a good audience to add in, but it's not actually using it for targeting. So could you possibly explain a little bit more about how audiences, adding the audience suggestion, I guess, can help the Performance Max campaign?
Yeah, effectively what it is especially when you're creating a brand new Performance Max campaign, is Google is asking you for who you're trying to target, because if you don't tell it, it doesn't really know. It just goes out and tries to find that information for itself, and it spends several months trying to find that. Whereas you say these people have converted. If you can find people similar to their characteristics, or if you can find people who are in the market for gardening equipment or whatever it may be of your because Google sort of has some predefined audiences that you can potentially use. You're sort of navigating Google to begin with to sort of show them what sort of people they should be targeting, and over time, obviously, Google will probably start to determine the real converters. But to begin with, it sort of gives it some direction. And what we hope from that is that
It doesn't narrow it down to just
it
target.
narrows it down, and you're not spending a load of money for Google to learn something. It sort of knows sort of who it's trying to target.
But it's not specific that those were the only. It's not specific that
it's
they're
not
the only.
specific. If you only had 100 people in that purchases, it wouldn't just target them 100 people, but it would target maybe the 100,000 people which are similar to them, 100 converters who have like similar characteristics.
Now, another thing that you mentioned, which Lucy asked about, was the cannibalization with search campaigns. Now, can you explain that you actually need to have an ad in there for it to be shown on search, first of all? You don't, you don't have to put an ad in, do you?
No, as I said on one of the things, you can. The smart shopping sort of slide is how you can just get it to do smart shopping, and that's effectively removing the headlines and descriptions, which are the main two bits that Google needs for search ads. Now, I've seen there's a very small percentage, but Google will still somehow get the PMax campaign onto the search network, but it's very, very small if you don't give it the headlines or descriptions. And if you don't give them that, they can't really show on the search network, and therefore they won't cannibalize your current search campaigns that you've probably spent months or years optimizing. So yeah, keep the headlines and descriptions out.
And if you do have the search ads, how does the cannibalization work, and how can you stop it?
It sort of just takes all the traffic, to be honest with you. It literally guts the whole campaign. So now Google said when they released it that it's based on intent. So if they think that someone's going to convert through the search campaign, your original search campaign, they'll show them that ad. If they think they're going to convert through the Performance Max search campaign, they'll show them that. And obviously now you know that they're just going to show them Performance Max. So the way you can stop it is, I guess, if you had two very different things. So, well, I guess a very obvious example is if you have a brand campaign, exclude your brand name from the Performance Max campaign, but it might be slightly different, say, turn off the expanded URLs, etc. And you might have a search campaign which is promoting Adidas products, and you might have a Performance Max campaign promoting Nike products, for example. So that way, they're never really going to overlap. So again, that's how you might stop them doing it. But realistically, you probably want a search campaign and a Performance Max campaign for both, in which case you would probably, as I say, don't add in the headlines or descriptions, and therefore your search campaign should just get most of the traffic, and the PMax might nick a little bit of it, but it probably won't do much.
Well, I guess because people have spent so much time crafting their search campaigns, and they played around with expanded ads and the responsive ads, and they've pinned the responsive ads to make them like expanded ads. People don't really want to add ads into Performance Max to basically screw up what they've already optimized. But assuming that you actually, okay, well, I think I'm going to risk it, I might get a bit more traffic, and you want to exclude the brands until this week. how would you have got the negative brands phrases? How would you have added the brand as a negative phrase into Performance Max to get around that? But I think they're going to make that open for everybody. But how was the previous method?
Yeah,
what did you have to do?
That's right. I know you didn't pay attention in my webinar, Anne, so it's
Oh,
fine.
no, well, I know the answer, but I know that people missed it.
So basically, what you need to do is just go to Google, Google Ads Support, start a live chat, and say I would like to exclude some terms from my Performance Max campaign. In which case they would then basically send you a template, or they'd say, give us your email, which they should already have when you opened up that chat, and they'll send you a template via email, and it says, I would like Google to do this without prior permission. I would like Google to add these keywords to these campaigns, or these negative keywords to these campaigns. But I don't know how that's going to work now that they've come out with this update. They probably will still be doing it, or they might just tell you to wait until the update is rolled out. So I'm not quite sure. But
that's why I raised it, because I don't think the update will be that quick. So
no.
If you need to do it in the interim, then that's probably a really good
go to Google Ads. I bet they have so many. I think they even opened a tab which was like Performance Max as like the topic you want to discuss, because they probably get so much of this now with everyone telling others to go and do the same thing.
Excellent. Well, look, we're at 10:10, so we've overrun a little bit, but thanks, Jordan. And for anybody that wants to know that's still on the call, we'll be releasing the video in a couple of hours. Now, me and Jordan are just about to go off and record a podcast on this, so I'll give you some instructions on that in a minute, Jordan, through our Teams chat. But thanks very much for a really interesting Performance Max presentation, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Cheers.